Of this, our editor-at-large of the Weekly Standard, Bill Kristol, and former George W. Bush political director, Matt Schlapp. Gentlemen, great to see you. Bill Kristol, what do you think when you hear Michael Wolff say that all of the people that he talked to, including the president's aides, don't think that he's fit?
I think he's right. Look, you know, why did people like me oppose Trump for the nomination, not vote for him in the general election, and spend the last year urging Republicans and conservatives not to rationalize what he's doing or make excuses for him? Because he's not fit for office. You know, people are like, oh, why are you never Trump? You just have some irrational dislike of him, or you're frustrated that, you know, the party didn't take your advice. So that's what it is. I mean, I totally agree with you, Allison, a few minutes ago when you sort of got exasperated and said, what are we doing here? I mean, well, what we are doing is we have him as president, and now he's trying to distract everyone into, let's have a fight with Steve Bannon. Sloppy Steve. Oh, isn't that amusing? Steve Bannon's now out. Bannon doesn't matter. Trump matters, and he's president of the United States.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my feeling is, Matt, that it's obviously delicate to talk about this. It brings me no pleasure to talk about the chaos inside the White House and that some of the president's top aides think that he's not fit. That's horrible. I mean, that's a horrible feeling. So what are we to do with this information, Matt?
Well, first of all, of course, there was a certain amount of chaos and disorder at the beginning of the presidency, because the very fact that this guy, Michael Wolff, is walking around the West Wing is evidence of the fact that some of the president's advisors didn't have his best interests at heart. And I think it is fair to say that, you know, for many of us who support Donald Trump, who supported him through the election, some of the folks that were put around the president and the way the first 6 or 8 months enveloped was very disheartening.
Okay, so you see it as a problem. I just want to make sure, Matt, you see this as a problem with his advisors and the people around him, not with the president.
I want to make something very clear. I love all this talk about this 100% of the people around the president don't think he's fit for office. I'm going to not be humble here for a minute. I know the president. I talked to the president. I've talked to him for a number of years.
Did you talk to Michael Wolff?
I'll raise my hand. I think he's fit to be president.
Did you talk to Michael Wolff?
I don't even know who he is.
That's it. He says 100% of the people that he talked to around the president.
No, that's not the point. Let's go to the point of what he's trying to make. The point of what he's trying to make is that everyone who knows the president somehow thinks he's unfit. I deal with the president. He's perfectly fit. He's doing a good job. Matter of fact, the president saw the disorder in his White House, and it's the president who brought in General Kelly. It's the president who said this is no way to run a railroad. He did that himself. So when you criticize him for the disorder and maybe some of the chaos at the beginning of his administration, you must also give him credit for solving much of that and for bringing in people who saw that as a problem.
Okay, so
Allison, 2 nights ago, the president apparently called his personal lawyer and had him send these cease and desist letters to the publisher and to Wolff and to Bannon. Which is nuts. I mean,
it's not
books
nuts.
Were written. It is nuts. Books were written accusing Barack Obama of forging his birth certificate. Books were written accusing Bill Clinton of having Vince Foster murdered. Books were written accusing George W. Bush of knowingly fabricating information about weapons of mass destruction. Not one of them as president of the United States thought, you know what, I'm going to call my personal lawyer and try to get threaten a defamation lawsuit, which of course is never going to happen, as a way of trying to intimidate other people from coming forward. I mean, if you're president of the United States, you let off steam, fine. You call the White House counsel and say, God, this is just terrible that they can say these things about me. And the White House counsel says to you, yes, Mr. President, that comes with the territory. The fact that now, not a year ago when Trump had never been in the White House before, not 6 months ago before he got rid of Priebus and Bannon and Flynn had been indicted and all of his first bunch of appointments were out of office, basically. Now, this week, Trump is not behaving like a serious president of the United States.
Yeah, hold on. Go ahead quickly, Matt, and then I have a next point. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me just be fast. I respect Bill Kristol, but I just say there is no question with Donald Trump, what you see is what you get. Bill's worked for presidents. I have worked for a president. They blow hot when the doors are closed, and they bitch about their enemies, and they complain. And let me finish. And they blow hot. But when the cameras are on, they put on the powder, and they smile, and they restrain from saying what they think. And what you get with Donald Trump is what Chris Cuomo said. Behind the scenes, he blows, and then when the cameras are on and he's talking to all of you, he says the same thing. It's that authenticity that you can criticize that people like so much about him.
Okay, so listen, Bill, where do we go from here? Now that we know that, and it's very hard to unknow the stuff that's going on inside the White House and the things that people around him have said to Michael Wolff and to other reporters. Let's not pretend that Michael Wolff has a monopoly on this. You know, Maggie Haberman's reporting, our reporting. Okay, we've heard this before. So, as you know, Bill and Matt, Democrats are more often talking about this publicly and invoking things like the 25th Amendment. You know, they brought in this Yale psychiatrist to try to help them understand
the
that's
going to solve a lot of problems.
So, Bill, what's Republicans' next move? What do Republicans do with this information?
Well, I mean, Republicans in Congress don't have much to do right now. Republicans, serious people in the administration, redouble their efforts to make sure the president doesn't cause genuine damage to the country or the world, and they try to carry out decent policies. You've got to do both at once. I mean, you've got to try to have a good Iran policy and help the protesters there at the same time that you worry about the president. Republicans in Congress should pass whatever policies they think are right. I have no problem with that, and approve good judicial nominees, but they should stop rationalizing and defending and excusing this president.
Can I just jump in there?
Yeah,
actually, the good people at the White House are overjoyed at the fact that the president continues to keep his campaign promises. I actually believe he has saved the country from the path that was on with Barack Obama. And it really doesn't matter what I think. These people around the country, these middle to lower class Americans who have been abandoned by our economy, who felt left out, they now feel invigorated by their economic opportunity. Our country was in a very dark and bad place, I believe, over the last 8 years, and I think it's in a much better place. And I think, look, at least half of Americans are overjoyed at the fact that they feel like their lives will be improved because Donald Trump is simply doing what he said he would do.
Half of Americans, as you know, the polls suggest that it's a base of 30 to 35%.
The same pollsters that got the election wrong. Let's be honest.
You're
I believe
the one
in
citing
science.
half of the Americans. I'm just challenging your number.
I have spent a lot more time studying polls than maybe some journalists have because I've had these jobs in politics. And I will just tell you that when you go around the country and talk to Americans, they feel very connected to Donald Trump and they like his agenda. You can go through all this psychoanalysis and babble that you want. The fact is this: you can't argue with the fact that he has a clear agenda and he's implementing it, and it's making the country, our economy, better.
Okay. Matt, thank you for your perspective. Bill Kristol, thank you for yours.